Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ruby, this is Ruby Red, and today we're gonna play another episode of my new TBR game. Is it still new? Take a Hike, episode 3. Let's take a hike. This is a game that I created inspired by TBR Star Hop, which is Stephanie Bookverse's TBR game. It looks pretty much exactly like the mini version that she has, although I did do all my own prompts and everything. And then the way that I play it is inspired by Bailey from Miss Bailey Reading and her game Jokes on Me, because I just really like how those videos are structured. It was also so satisfying to make those videos when you just like get a small amount of books and you read the books in the same video. It's just like all one thing. I like that. So those are the influences of Take a Hike. And yeah, I roll a dice. I move along this little board here and I move from the trailhead to the lookout. And I get prompts, I get books, I read them. Ta-da! If you want to see more, the playlist will be linked below. So at the start of this game, I have 42 unread owned books. That includes books on my bookshelf and also books that I have as e-arcs. I have a lot of those. I frequently abuse my NetGalley privileges. So the point of the game is sort of like to guide my reading, obviously, but also to be picking owned books. I want to get my own TBR down to like 12-ish by the end of the year. And I also I have this goal of every book that I read this year making it into a video, and so this game is how I'm doing that. And then if I have a book I want to read that doesn't fit into the game, I have to come up with a new video concept for it. And all of those videos have gotten canceled because I DNF the book, so it doesn't matter. That's sort of the plan. Anyway, let's play. Let's do the rolls. Okay, ready for episode 3. I have my frog still as my game piece, and I have a new die that just has a more of a, I don't know, it seemed to fit the vibe a little better. Anyway, let's roll. 4. Boop, 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 boop. New prompts also. I added prompts and I tried to keep them still in there, like easy, medium, less choice. Friend's favorite. Excuse me. 1, 2, 3. A leaf. NetGalley, love to see that. Getting through those arcs is a goal for the year. Oh gosh. Can you see that? It's a 2. 1, 2, another flower. That's 2. Here we go. Okay, big book. 500 plus pages. Excellent. Okay, now we do not want that 3. Oh. Okay, another leaf. And a short book. Okay, that's kind of funny. Nice little treat. Okay, now we really do not want a 2. I want to keep moving forward. Forward. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. We made it to the lookout. Okay, great. Time for my choice. Okay, for the first prompt, we got a friend's fave. So that is in reference to the Reading My Friend's Faves video that I make at the beginning of the year. In this case, it was 2 videos. And I have basically a list from a bunch of friends of all their favorite books from 2024. And the project is to read one from each of them, which I already completed. And so this prompt is like, pick another fave, because I have a list. I have multiple books from a bunch of friends. So I'm picking another book from Danielle's faves, Danielle at Danielle Reads. And that is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. I bought this book after I had already read a fave for Danielle, but I did buy it because of Danielle, because I don't know, whatever she said about it made me want to read it. and also like pirate book and older female protagonist. A lot of fantasy. We know this. It's about these youngins, these 20-something, 19-year-old girls, which love. Don't get me wrong. But I think that this is about an older woman. I don't know if she's like, is she 30? Is she middle-aged? Is she, 60? I don't know. But excited to dive into that. Our second prompt was NetGalley. It still is our prompt. So for that, I'm going to pick Terrestrial History by Joe Reed Mungo. I don't remember the order of those, but it's on the screen. And this is an arc that I have that I basically know nothing about, except it's a multi-generational family saga. And at the beginning, it starts in Scotland and it ends in a colony on Mars. So that's a fun trajectory to me. A little sci-fi moment. I love that. And it's pretty different from the rest of the books that I'm going to be reading. So that's another perk. Okay, big book. 500 plus pages is what I consider to be a big book. And Golden Fool is 632 pages. At least this one is. I have been reading the Realm of the Elderlings series saga with some of my friends. So this is the second book in the Tawny Man trilogy, which is trilogy number 3 of the Realm of the Elderlings. We've been having so much fun reading it, and I'm sure that this one will be no exception. I love The Fool, so can't wait for this. Really big book, but they read so fast. I don't know what she puts in those books. Man, I can just eat them right up. Okay. Then we got a short book, which is a nice counterbalance. And for that, I am going to be reading The Quarry Fox. Is there a glare on this one? The Quarry Fox and Other Critters of the Wild Catskills by Leslie T. Sharp. This is a local author, and I'm reading this for my book club. My library's book club is reading this book for April because sometime over the summer, Leslie is going to be speaking at the library, so we just thought it would be fun to have read her book before then. And I am going to listen to this as an audiobook, but I did borrow this physical copy to lend to my mom because she's also in the book club. So she's going to be reading this one, and I'm going to be having the audiobook. And this is, I think, 205 pages. So yay. And those are the prompts. So here's the thing. I know that I've already got a library book on here, but I'm going to put another one on because I have another book club that has a book that I'm actually really excited about, and that is Bailey's Book Club, the Shelf This Book Club, which is co-hosted by a different booktuber every month. And this month for April, it's going to be co-hosted by Cheyenne, and she picked The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison, maybe. And there's just something about this because it's a YA fantasy, which normally would be a month I politely excuse myself from participating in this book club. It's just not something I typically enjoy, so I just stay away from that. However, I don't know. The goblin thing maybe really drew me in, so I want to read this. I have the audiobook already, so that's my choice, and I'm very sorry to me that 2 of these are not from my own TBR, but progress is progress, and genuinely I'm excited about all these books, so what more could you ask for, really? Hi. I'm reading The Golden Fool, and you already know that I can't really say what it's about because it's the second book in a trilogy, which is the 3rd trilogy in the series, so there's really, it's tough to talk about. But as usual, in typical Robin Hobb fashion, like, I don't know what she's putting in these books because I think I read, what is this, 230 pages in 3 days. I could not put this down. I was waking up, I was diving right in, and then when it was time to go to bed, I was like, I can't go to bed, I'm reading. And that's how I feel now still. So in fact, I just wanted to say it's good. And then I'm gonna get back into it because there are some things afoot. Ah! Okay, it's a beautiful day. We're having such up and down weather right now, but I wanted to keep you appraised in this video of the book count. So I have to confess some things. The first is that we're gonna -1 from my own TBR because I finished a book for TBR spin. So you'll hear about that when the next vlog comes out, but that's one off the list. And I'm adding one because I bought Curiosities by Anne Fleming, which I bought when I was thinking I was gonna read the shortlist for the Carol Shields Prize. That book I don't think made the shortlist, and I canceled that video, so it all doesn't matter, but that book just really intrigued me and I wanted to read it, and none of my libraries have it, so I bought a copy. So that's +1 on my own TBR. Yay. Hi, I have some updates. I don't have the books, I didn't bring them in here with me, and I'm not gonna get up, and also my heat pump just started making like more noise than I think is strictly necessary right now, but whatever. We have this moment to talk about books, and so we're gonna take it. I have read more than half of 2 books and neglected to mention it. So I'm past the halfway point in The Golden Fool, and I'm not gonna, say really anything about it, but I love it. I am so stressed. Reading it this morning, I was tearing up a little bit. There's a few relationships in this series that are so impactful to me that like their connections just like hurt me so much when they're threatened or when there's like strife. It just like, I'm so worried about them. So there's a few of those relationships. I mean, really, like all the relationships feel like that to me, but there's a few right now that are in crisis. So that's been very stressful to me. And also like everything just seems to happen at once. So it's really rough. But the intrigue is extremely high also. Intrigue and emotions through the roof. The other book I started is The Goblin Emperor, which was the My Choice book, and that's the Shelf This pick for this month, which is the month of April, and Cheyenne from Cheyenne Books is the person who picked it, and this I think is her first time picking for Shelf This, and I am not someone who really ever likes young adult fantasy. I mean, I don't dabble in young adult books really at all at this point in my life. I'm just not drawn to it. I'm not into it. But the concept of this, and also it being quite a bit older, I forget what year it was published. I think it was published in the early 2000s. So I felt more inclined to give it a try. And so I had the audiobook and I was like, let's just see how it goes. Because Goblin Emperor, I just was really into it. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm glad I'm listening to the audiobook because I don't know what anybody's name is. I feel sorry for everybody in the book club who does not read a lot of like epic fantasy and now is trying to read this, because I think, if you're used to engaging with very complex like grammar and naming systems, it's fine, but I think if you're not, it's going to be very overwhelming, unfortunately. I know a lot of fantasy still does have, names that are unfamiliar, made up words, made up language stuff, but this feels on a different level. And actually I asked in the chat if anybody had a physical copy of the book and there was a map in it or like a glossary or something. I'd love to see it because I love that kind of stuff. And I think it was like 16 pages of just names and like who they are. That kind of thing, like a cast of characters. And yeah, so props to the audiobook narrator for deciding on how these names are going to be pronounced and sticking to it, because that's something that I struggle with reading books with really unfamiliar name structures, is that I will fumble over it for a long time and it takes me a while to settle on how I'm going to be pronouncing the name to myself. I'm not somebody who could just skip over it. So yeah, very complex world building. No complaints really, except, is there a plot? I'm not sure. I am, I think, almost 70% done with the book actually, so you would think by now I would know if there was a plot. Basically, young young emperor, Maya. His father, the emperor, his mother died years ago. He's been raised by his like crabby uncle. Is it even his uncle? I don't really know. Who hates him because he's half goblin. I think they're elves. There's various races in this world. The uncle hates him. So he's not having a great time. He's having a tough life, basically, but he's fine. And then his father and his 3 older brothers or something, who are all like, would all be in line for the throne, die in an accident at once. And so he suddenly has to be the emperor. And he's like so unprepared for that. He doesn't know who to trust. He's never even been to this palace or whatever. And he doesn't know anybody at court. And he was like so not raised for this because there were 3 other sons. So he does, you know, I guess find some trusted individuals to help him navigate this, but there's still like intrigue, court politics, like people are trying to manipulate him. There's some bad actors, like, so it's interesting, it's thorough, but you know, I guess there is a mystery of, you know, the accident that killed his family probably wasn't an accident, so like what's up with that? But it just, that feels very much like not the central focus. Like that's something that we're thinking about on the back burner because we have bigger problems such as how to be an emperor, but I don't think that is a plot. So I guess I'll keep you posted, but I am enjoying it. And good pick, Cheyenne. I don't know how well it's going to be received overall, but by me, yes. Hello to this beautiful banana bread. Recipe linked below. All right, so I finished The Goblin Emperor and I'm really struggling with my feelings about it because on the one hand, I was interested, like okay, it's the plot thing again. It's like I enjoyed the world and the characters that we met, but I don't really feel like I got enough of the characters to really even quantify this as like a character-driven story. I don't think it was. I think it was I don't know, just there was so much political world building and magical, you know, not just political world building, but like it was a very political book, I guess. But like I had said before, the plot, by the end, I was able to basically be like, oh, that was the plot. But instead of the plot, you know, having a rising action and a climax and then some, you know, resolution, falling action, which of course doesn't have to be, you know, like straight up and straight down, but there was just so much other stuff packed in like around the plot that like I couldn't see that line because there was just like so much stuff packed in about like who's who and what happened here and like just like the world building. Again, it was very interesting. And it was like, I don't know, I would consider reading the rest of the series. It was actually only published about 10 years ago, but it reads as something that could have been published like 20 or 30 years ago. It has a very old-fashioned sort of slant towards that sort of epic fantasy. So I liked it, but I also feel like for the length of book, I wish I had just gotten more out of it, I guess. So I don't know. I think we are going to have an interesting discussion with the Shelf This Book Club. And I'm glad that I read it. And I am glad that Cheyenne picked it because I think that's a book that I never would have read. And it's a book that I did have fun with. And that's what reading is for. Sometimes. At other times it's not. But in this case it was. And I also started The Quarry Fox and Other Critters of the Wild Catskills by Leslie Sharp. Leslie is going to be speaking at my library. So my book club my library book club is reading her book. In anticipation of that. And this is a copy that my mom borrowed. I've been listening to the audiobook, but she did leave it here. So she will not be finishing it by the time we have our book club meeting. That's okay. I have the audiobook. I might switch to eyeball reading it, honestly. No, I won't. I like the audiobook. What am I talking about? And I like the book. I think if it was not about the place that I live, it would be less good. My intrigue is high because it's extremely familiar. She doesn't live in my town, but I think like very close by. And so a lot of the critters and like the beginning of this book is sort of about like when winter becomes spring, and that's sort of where I'm at right now. And we actually just had like 4 or 5 inches of snow in mid-April. So it's really feeling like that, like last clutches of winter. Meanwhile, like the crocuses have sprouted, my garlic's coming up, I saw lots of like frog spawn. It's all, you know, anyway. So that's been fun, but I don't necessarily think that the writing is like phenomenal, unfortunately. It's just pretty fine. Yeah, I think my appreciation of it has more to do just with the content than with the presentation. And for me, like, I will finish it, but presentation is very important. Like, I love writing, so I love to read writing that I love. I don't love writing. Anyway, yeah, so it's about different creatures, critters. There was stuff about the spring peepers, the rocks, the bats, the bugs, you know, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. Oh, and there's little illustrations in here. Cute. I really like the cover of this, to be totally honest. I love this guy. So anyway, that's the update for what I'm reading, okay? Finished The Goblin Emperor. Excellent writing, story, meh. The Cory Fox, story, pretty excellent. Story, content, excellent, but writing, yeah. So that's where I'm at. All right, I have finished The Golden Fool. 5 stars again, absolutely slay. This series is so good. I love these characters. I love this book. Ended on such a moment where I was like, I'm opening the next one. I need to open it. I'm not going to, because I need to wait until after I have a discussion chat with the friends that I'm reading the series with. Like, after we have our little call where we talk about this book, then I can open the next one, because otherwise I'll get confused about what's in what book, you know? But phenomenal. I feel like I liked this one slightly less, like, overall than Fool's Errand, but part of that was just like, this was very much like you're setting up for book 3, and a lot happens in this still. Like, we made massive progress on several fronts, and there was still like conflict that was really hard to read, and that, you know, like we resolved some things. There's just still so much that's up in the air right now, but great book. What a legend. One thing though is just like, obviously this is an owned TBR book, so like that's one off the list, but actually it's not. This one doesn't ever remove something from my list, because while I did finish this, I did then add the next book, which is like Fool's Fate or something ominous like that, to my own TBR shelf. So maybe it would be smarter for me to add this whole series to my own shelf. How many more would that be? 8 books? No, I'm not adding 8 more to my shelf. Although then it would like honestly go down, but I think I'm just gonna keep letting the Elderlings always have one spot on my own TBR, and that's that. So on to the next one. I finished The Cory Fox today, and pretty much everything I said about it before holds true. I felt like her love of the Castiels and the critters, like, there was a really nice story about a fox, but it was just like a nice story. It didn't have as much punch as it would have had if the writing was like better. I don't know how to say that in a better way, because it's not that it was like bad, it just was fine. It was good, but it wasn't like amazing. Like, I wanted this to read like Braiding Sweetgrass. Okay, I wanted like Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. That's not what this is. It was fun that it was basically hyper local, like only like once or twice mentioned the actual mountain that I live on, but the mountain that she lives on is one that's actually like right by the library, and so she's referencing a lot of very specific places that I know, which is fun. So I really enjoyed that aspect. Again, I love all the critters of the Catskills also. I learned that at one point the turkeys here were hunted almost to extinction, and they've certainly bounced back, let me tell you. There was stuff about the catamount, the cougars and more cougar denial. Cougar deniers, they're just everywhere, but they're here. A lot of great stuff about the bobcats, and that's how the Catskills got their name, maybe. And of course the black bears, a lot of fun black bear, you know, anecdotes and whatever. So cute book, but I didn't want it to be a cute book. I wanted it to be a phenomenal book. I wanted it to feel like what it feels like to, I don't know, stand in bare feet in the creek. Like, I wanted it to feel like the spring peepers were in my very hands, you know, and it didn't really feel like that. So did my expectations, were they way too high? Okay, yes. But anyway, I've finished that book. I'm ready for the book club discussion. I don't know how well it's going to do in my book club, to be honest, but on to the next one. All right, we just got back from visiting Connor's family this weekend and came home with more books than I had when we went there. So this one, The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, I have read this before, so this is a gift, but it's not going to go on my owned TBR because it's not TBR. I've read it, but I do want to reread it, and I think I also probably want Connor to read it, so I'm glad to have this, but this does not increase my owned TBR. However, this, I believe this is a loaner, but I do want to read it, and I do have it now, you know, so this is going to go on my owned TBR, because it is going to be owned until I read it and give it back, you know what I mean? So this is Orbital by Samantha Harvey, which is a small book that won the Booker Prize last year, and I've only heard amazing things about it, so I am excited to read it. And I feel like I've also just heard good reviews of this from people who read all kinds of books. Like, it seems like maybe like many types of reader like this. Anyway, so that's the sitch. I'm adding one, but like, do I have a reread prompt? If I do have a reread prompt, this one's on the table for sure. Okay, I'm almost halfway done with Amin al-Sarafi, and I am enjoying it. I think so far the plotting is excellent. Like, the maneuvering of this sort of quest has been like well executed, but there's something about the writing, like it's it's trying to be funny on occasion, and the comedy doesn't really hit for me. It feels just a bit awkward. So initially it was really bothering me, and I basically by like 60 or so pages into this, I was like, oh, I'm definitely not interested in reading anything else by this author, because the writing style, that like the jokes that were insert, I just was not into it. But now it's bothering me less. I'm, like I said, about halfway done. So I'm not writing off Shannon Chakraborty like I initially thought, but it does have just a bit more of a lighthearted tone to the writing than I expected. Although I guess from the cover, maybe I should have expected that. Just like the illustrative style is a bit more lighthearted. So I don't know. That's my thoughts right now. Okay, these are my frog spawn. A frog did jump into here right as I approached and has not yet surfaced, so that's interesting. Let me zoom in so you can see all the tadpoles. Right. There's so many. Look at all of them little wiggling around. There don't seem to be any in the eggs anymore, so they're all out, swimming around. Where is that frog? Okay, yeah, I'm coming to you soaking wet right out of the shower. Sorry, but it's almost appropriate to be all wet when I am talking about my pirate book. I finished The Adventures of Amin al-Sarafi this morning, quickly took a shower, got my thoughts in order. Now I'm back and I want to talk about it. I really liked this book. I felt like, I know initially there was something about the sort of jokey tone being inserted that was pushing me away, but I think that as we got to know Amina as a character, and she got so well fleshed out in my opinion, she became so real to me. As we got to know her better, that started to make more sense in the story, or maybe I just got used to it. I don't know, but it stopped bothering me for sure, like by the midpoint. Also around the midpoint though, I was finding myself thinking, dang, I wish this was a standalone. Like I found out that it was the first in another trilogy, and I was like, gosh, why can't anything just be a standalone? But then by the end, I was like, okay, yeah, I get how this is gonna be a trilogy. And I feel optimistic about the second book. Like I don't feel like it will have that lull that a lot of second books have, because you're just waiting for the big finale. Like I think there's enough action that needs to happen before this total story can be complete that we can have a really go get 'em second book. So I'm excited for that. I don't think this will be one of my favorites of the year, but I did really like it. Should I say what the book is actually about? So Amina El-Sarafi is a pirate, or she was a pirate. She is now a 40-year-old woman who retired her life of piracy 10-ish years ago to raise her daughter, far away from anybody who could reveal to her daughter that her mom was a fearsome pirate, I think. She gave her ship, her family ship, honestly, because her dad was a pirate also, to one of her trusted, you know, piratey friends. And she was like, the quiet life is for me. And then she gets approached by a woman, the mother of one of her old crewmates, to be like, hey, that guy who used to work for you, remember him? He had a daughter and she was just kidnapped, and I need you to get her back for me, and I'll pay you so much money. And I mean, it's like, what? So she ends up taking this job, like one last job. It's gonna, you know, provide a lot of financial security for her and safety for her daughter, having that safety net, etc. So she does it. She goes out, she gets the gang back together, and the way that that all happens was really fun. So they set off on this adventure to save this girl from a kidnapping, or maybe did she just run away with him? We don't really know. We're gonna find out. And what's fun is that at every turn when magic shows up in this book, the characters are all like, no, not this again. Which I think in a lot of fantasy where people are being introduced to a sort of supernatural world, they're excited about it and want more of it. But in this case, I feel like part of it is just all the characters are older. Like I said, in their 40s, maybe one of them might be like in his 60s. And like, they don't want the surprises. They don't want the fantasy adventure. Like, they just want to get it done and get home. So I thought that was a fun thing. I don't know. I really like this book. I flew through it, I feel like. And I'll definitely continue the series. So that's one more off the list. What are we, back to 42 where we started this whole video? One more book to read. I'm enjoying some peanut noodles out here for dinner, and Carbon is extremely focused on these two turkeys. He hasn't said a peep yet, but he's very focused on them, aren't you? This is Tom. He's finally winning at this game. We are so almost done with this episode. Yesterday I spent the day in New York City with Lizzie from Lizzie's Literary Life. She was on a little road trip, and so I took the train down to meet up with her, and we spent the day together. We went to a cat cafe, which was so fun. there were so many cats and mostly they were friendly. And then we went, of course, to some bookstores. We went to the Strand, which I've never been to before. We went to also a knitting store that I had been hearing about called Knitty City, and that was really fun. We didn't buy anything. We just browsed, we just squeezed the yarn. We had some fun, and it was just such a wonderful day out in the city. But what else happened is that I spent 3 total hours on the train getting to and then getting back home from the city. So I read a lot, and I read a lot of terrestrial history. I'm actually more than halfway done with the book at this point, so I thought I would share initial impressions and try to get some of my thoughts out. So this is going to be tough. I really like it. It's not tough because of that. It's just tough because it's a book that is told from the perspectives of multiple generations from, you know, one family. We started with, I think her name is Hannah, who is a scientist working on nuclear fusion, which is an extremely powerful, like, renewable energy source that has yet to be, like, harnessed. But that's what she's working on, and then we follow, like, basically a line of her descendants. And it all relates to that technology, that energy, and also how desperately we need it, how desperately the world needs renewables, strong, effective, like, powerful renewables. And it's about the climate crisis. It's about different approaches to handling the climate crisis, I guess, because it goes pretty far into the future, and it does eventually end with, or not end, but I mean, we end up with, we read about a character who was born on Mars. Yeah, born on Mars. So, you know, there's life on other planets. There's not life on other planets, but the humanity has created a way to sustain life on another planet due to having, like, not being able to save this one, basically. And, you know, one of the characters is in politics. Other ones are in just, like, different sort of sciencey fields. You don't have to know the science to understand all of those, like, scenes and chapters about reactors, like, because I don't understand it and I'm having a fine time. But I really like it. I like the way that, you know, the characters, it's like a straight line of descendants. It's like Hannah's son and then his daughter and then her son, I think that's it. And so you get each of the characters' perspectives on, like, the other characters in that line. So I think that's always a fun touch in these, like, multi-generational things. But I don't know what this book is doing for me anyway. Like, it's asking, how come we are putting so much time, money, effort into all of these projects to make life possible on Mars? Like, where was that energy? Where was that drive when we needed to save our own planet? Like, it's sort of framed like the rich and a select group of others got to go to Mars and, like, take that escape hatch off of this dying planet. But it's like, who killed the planet? There's a lot about, I guess, like, corporate greed and governmental, like, incompetence in reining in corporate greed and paving a way for, like, us to keep living here. So it's a little bit scary in that way, but it is, you know, future, and it is sci-fi, and like, the technology that they're talking about is not technology that we have or are close to having, as far as I know. There was a time travel moment, a little bit of time travel. That's always interesting, and it was paired with some, like, sort of philosophical thoughts of, like, how does time travel work and why? I don't know. I'm finding this to be a very thought-provoking book, I guess, and I'm really enjoying it. It's not like end-of-the-world eco-fiction in a way that's, well, it wasn't in a way that's scaring me. There is stuff happening now that I've, like, passed the middle of the book that I'm like, yikes, that's actually probably gonna happen like soon. So yeah, climate crisis, it's here. But this book is good. Okay, it is raining a little bit, but I just like the way that tippy top of the mountain has that golden light hitting it. Oh my gosh, and everything is leafing out and getting a little bit green. Spring has sprung, friends. Okay, I finished Terrestrial History. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I feel so surprised by that book. I feel devastated. I feel so I feel heard, or perhaps seen, is what I should say. I feel like that book brought to life a lot of my climate fears, but it also was just it was an interesting sci-fi book. I think if you like science fiction, I feel like if you really like Blake Crouch, you would like this book. I haven't read any Blake Crouch, but between the like space and like reactors kind of stuff, and there is like parts of this are set in space, and like I said, there's like a little time travel thing happening that's very just interesting. I wish I could say more about it so that we could talk about it, but I don't want to spoil it because I really did think it was very good, and I hope that people get to read it when it's published. I'll try to have the date of that publication when I do my final wrap up for this video. I don't have time to do it right now because I have to get changed and leave like right now. I really am shocked at how much I loved that book. So great pick, me. And great pick, Rena, for picking that. I think I was like, I have a few arcs that I'm not sure which one I want to read right now, and that's the one that she told me to read, so I did. Amazing. Really good. Really something. Okay, I tried to do this outside, but honestly the bugs were already out in force. So let's just wrap up this third episode. I'm so excited to be moving through these. So for this Take a Hike episode 3, I started with 42 books, and then I read 5 books, and now I'm at 41 books. Only 3 of the books that I read were on my own TBR, and Golden Fool doesn't count, so I read 2 books. But I got 2 books. Wait. I don't remember. Oh, but I also lost a book for my TBR spin. So yeah, anyway, we're at just a -1. That's progress, right? The reading for this, I spent 27 days reading for this episode. It's a little bit because like before I finish reading for this episode, I have already started reading for the next one. There tends to be some overlap, so it's not maybe as honest as it could be, but it's as honest as I can be, you know? 27 days reading for this. Outside from this video and the TBR spin, I had 2 DNFs, and one of them's actually for the next Take a Hike episode. So that's kind of funny. And I read 1,358 pages for these books, and I listened to 24 hours of audio, although I listened at 1.5 speed, so it's less than that of my time, but that's how many audiobook hours I got through. Is that a valuable piece of information? I had 2 5-stars, which I think is great, a 1 4-star, and then 2 3-stars, but I did get to read 2 books for book clubs, which I was really excited about, just getting them in here. So yeah, this is a successful episode in my book, even though I had 2 books on my list that were not owned, you know. We're working. We're still working, okay? So thanks so much for watching, for spending time with me. I don't think this video is going to be as long as the last one, but I'm sure that there will be consequences for me saying that once I get to the editing room. Anyway, I love this game. I love playing it, and I'm going to keep doing it, and I hope you keep watching it. Okay, great.